double damage. Oh, people are gonna molt. Hello and welcome, Ohana, to the first look at what the beast charms are going to be like. So starting here, we actually have the talismans. It says Beast Talisman of Power 4. So it's the tier 4, so it's a higher tier. Enhance a non-multi-hit attack for +6 damage. So it's flat damage. It's not super spectacular, but it is the reliable amount of flat damage, right? It won't stack on the multi-hit. I wonder how it will hit on the AoEs. I think AoE will actually be included in the multi-hit. So this will only be on single target cards. But this combined with a backdoor card is actually going to be very, very strong, because that's the one where you're going to use to focus and bring down one Axie. The next one is the Talisman of Vitality 4. Enhance any card Axie's max HP +20. So we've seen this. The plant variant actually had, the neutral variant had +25. So this is a lower tier version of that. But this is going to be very, very nice because it actually makes it so that a beast can go from, it's going to be +20 times 6 if you want to optimize it, which would bring it up to 120 HP, which is pretty healthy, right? That combined with the 320 base brings us up to a grand total of 440 health. So our beasts can get quite healthy, combined with the new taunt cards that will actually make it so our beasts can actually be the tanks. All right, coming into the bottom section, we have the Mask of Frenzy. Enhance any card. All teammates gain 1 rage. I'm curious how rage is going to work, because rage seems to go single digits at a time. Is rage going to be a 0 out of 3 or a 0 out of 5? Who knows? What is the answer? Okay. Because we're not sure what the rage mechanic is or how strong it's going to be. I have a speculation that during rage, when you activate, right, you're going to go into what is known as Fury form. And then now from when in Fury form, you get 200% damage on cards. So essentially it doubles your damage. It doubles your damage on all your cards. This is my speculation only, but that's what I'm assuming it will be. So now we have the Beast Talisman of Power 5. So now we can see the linear progression. So on 4, it goes from 6 to 10. But if we go back 2, 3, 4 more, it doesn't actually line up. So is the Beast Power 3, is that going to be 2 attack? Or is that going to be a little bit more? I'm curious how that's going to scale, because it looks like it jumps from 6 to 10, which is actually quite a large jump. So that's going to be very, very nice. So yeah, obviously it's going to be a significant difference if you actually have the higher Beast Talisman, right? And we see the costs here as well in the top left corner. So the Talisman 5 is actually going to be a 3 cost as opposed to a 2 cost on the Talisman 4. So you might actually get certain values where you have 2 remainder and you just want to get extra attack, right? You can choose between extra attack or extra health on the 2, right? As opposed to Mask of Frenzy, this one's going to be a very special utility card, so it's actually going to cost 4. It's going to cost a little bit more and not allow you to have as much access to that. Okay, coming into the second set of Beast Charms, we have the Beast Vitality of 35. So it jumps from 20 to 35. So it looks like there is quite a significant jump from 4 to 5. But again, we have the increased cost. Will it balance out? We will have to see. We have Beast Energy Drink here. We have our little bear Red Bull popping in on a 4. Add Banish. Cards base stats are increased by 20%. So this is most useful on a strong card, right? So if you have a 2 cost card that's very, very strong, right? The baselines can easily be 150. We add 20% on this, which is going to be an easy, what is this? 10 plus 20, 30, right? This is a casual 30 damage increase, right? Very, very significant, right? Because the other card that we saw from the plus attack was actually only plus 10, right? And that is going to be a big key factor. But we add on a Banish modifier. So if you guys did not know, Banish modifier means once it's been played, it goes to the second graveyard, the Banish graveyard. So normally you have your deck here, and then you have your graveyard, but then you have your Banish pile. Normally when you play cards, it will go directly to the graveyard, but if it adds the Banish tag, now it forces it to go into the Banish graveyard. And normally those cards means it cannot be played for that match, but there is actually one reptile card that will replace that one from your Banish pile, so you can actually play it again. So you can double the value on Banish cards, but it's going to be interesting to see how we'll do. Another mechanic for Banish is it thins your deck. Because now if you had 18 cards to start, you play the Banish, you go to 17. So your deck is quote unquote thinner. So it's easier to draw your other cards. And if you play a lot of other cards often enough on your Banishes, you can thin out your deck quite a lot and get exactly what you want to get. It significantly increases your chances of drawing your better cards. Now we have the Beast Energy Drink S. This is even better, right? This is even more powerful. So now this adds Ethereal. Can we get verification on Ethereal, actually? I wanted to know, I believe it was Axie Tech Explorer. I wanted to see what exactly was the specific modifier on Ethereal. Because I wonder if it kept it to the same as Slay the Spire, or it held on to, oh no, we need V2, we need Origin. Okay. We want to see just exactly what the Ethereal does, because I want to see. So when your turn ends, if the card is still in your hand, banish it. Banished cards are removed from your deck until the end of battle. So this is an interesting change. So Ethereal is not the same as Banish, because Ethereal is only if you don't play it, if it stays in your hand. Why is that important when we compare it to this? Because this means here, if we have the Ethereal, if we play the card, we never banish it. If we play the card every single time it's drawn, it will never be banished. So that's why this is the Beast Drink S. This is the S+. This is very, very strong because it increases the card stats by 10%, but it makes it so you never get rid of it as long as you play it. The thing is, let's say if it's on a 2-cost card, right? It's the plus 10% stats. It's very, very strong. But when you draw it, your opponent plays something to prevent you from using it, right? Let's say they prevented attack cards, right? So if your attack cards actually get blocked out for 1 turn, like let's say if they hit you with Disarm, they get blocked out. Therefore, you cannot play it. That means the Ethereal will trigger and you get to banish that card without getting to play it, and you no longer have the value. So there is counterplay for these Ethereal builds, right? But obviously, this is actually one of the most powerful charms that you can see here. Next up, we have the Hidden Razor. Got a Switchblade. Obviously, you don't want to find this in your Halloween candy. Enhance any attack card. Attack applies bleed for 2 turns. We know what bleed is. Bleed is you take damage for every single card you play. So this makes it so this adds on a modifier with no detriment, right? So this is essentially a plus buff without a debuff, right? So this is very, very strong. It has no cost on it. The only cost is right here on the 5. Right? Because if we have a total grand total stats of 15 of potential power, which is the amount we can allocate to charms, if you have the 5 cost and then you play 2 more mythics, you are playing 15 already, which means you can only play 3 charms, which means you need to allocate your stats appropriately. Let's take a quick look at the 15 and 15 breakdown. If we have 15 here and we play a 5, right? So we minus 5 here. That means the remainder is a 10. So on a 10, how do we allocate as many charms as possible? Ideally, now you can play 2 4s and a 2, but that still only gives you a grand total of 4 charms. Is that viable? Or do you actually want to sack this and play 1 5 here with a grand total of 5 small charms, right? So we have the small charm over here. We multiply this by 5. This gives us 15, but we have only 2 cost charms, but it does actually give us a total of 6 charms. So you get a maximum potential out of using all your charms, but you have to take smaller, weaker ones. Because as we can see on some of these, as it goes down in cost, it goes down in power as well. So let's do a comparison on the Beast Rune. So runes have no cost associated with the potential power because runes are actually allocated one-on-one on an Axie. An Axie gets to play 1 rune no matter what, regardless of cost. So on the first one, we have the Pangolin Scale. So the Pango cannot gain shield. Take 25% less damage. Very, very interesting. So if you have a team that doesn't actually gain shield, you can actually play this and tank up. So every single hit, no matter what, will deal less damage by 25%. Very, very interesting. So if you have a healing comp and a comp that does reduced damage by playing Wall Gecko, which reduces your damage taken, right? Wall Gecko also reduces damage taken, and I believe they will compound on top of each other. That means your beast is very, very tanky. And if you play the charms for plus flat damage or plus flat HP on health, you can get a very, very tanky monster, right? Plus you can add taunt onto your beast, which means they're forced to attack this, take the reduced damage, right? They would deal much less to this guy, and if you can keep healing it, very, very frustrating to get through Beast. I would love to see my Merry Legion running this rune so I can become a Merry Legion tank. I'd be very, very happy. Actually, no, I can't because I cannot gain shield. Never mind. We have to come up with a different variation. So next we have the Dominant Predator. Deal 20% more damage against bleeding enemies and take 10% less from bleeding enemies. Okay, so this is a pure bleed build, right? We have to assert dominance by applying bleed first. Once the bleed is applied, we deal 20% more damage at all times. But this only applies to the beast and not to your other two Axies. So you're gonna have to see about what other synergies you're gonna have to do. And you take 10% less damage from bleeding enemies. And you say, oh, let me just compound it with this one, with the pangolin skill. You cannot, because you can only take one rune at a time. You need to figure out what kind of build you are. So runes seem like they're actually build defining, as opposed to charms, which are just modifications on your cards. Now we have Reckless Hunter. Deal 20% more damage, take 10% more damage. So this is very much like berserking, where you sacrifice all defenses to go as hard as possible. So if you combine this with a DPS mech, right? Like a god mech that just deals pure damage, and then you have something to taunt and protect it, this would be incredible. This deals so much damage then. Okay, and then the last one is gain 3 range when your turn starts. Each rage grants 1 bonus damage. Is this what rage is going to be? Can we see rage? I would love to see rage here. Let's see. Let's go to the beast class. Beast classes are, I think, are one of the only ones that actually hold the rage modifier. So rage damage is increased by 2 per rage stack. Transform into fury form when it reaches 10 rage stacks. So now we can know exactly what that is. So fury form is what I said, right? It's gonna transform once you hit 10 rage, and I believe at that point you deal a ton of extra damage, if not double. So, but you get flat damage per rage stack at 2. So let's see. So grants 1 bonus. So right now rage gives +2, right? On flat. Rage is +2 per stack. But with this modifier, it now actually becomes +3 per stack once you have the charm. Once you have the, sorry, not the charm, the rune. It's going to be very interesting because beasts are one of the only ones that seem to exemplify rage generation. Since we gain 3 at the start, that means at the start of the turn, we have +9 damage on all your cards, right? But is that only on the beast? I believe it will only be on the beast. Because here's the thing. Is rage global, right? Does rage apply to all of your Axies? Because otherwise, each Axie will have to generate an individual rage meter, which doesn't make sense. So therefore, the flat damage here actually applies to all of your Axies. Very, very interesting. So a rage team can actually, one beast can generate rage for his entire team, which will be a very interesting style. I wanted to see this because this is what we have when we play Axie V2. So we're going to have a lot of that, and we're going to easily generate rage coming into it. Okay, and that's it for the beast runes and charms. Aquatic charms reveal. We're going to be starting off with our Talisman of Vitality. So this is going to be the same as what we saw with the beast. It's going to be +20 health. So there's not going to be a beast aqua difference, right? Aqua does not get bonuses on plus health, as you can see here. It's the same thing here. On the beast cards, we have the same amount of attack, +6 as well. So we're going to see how that balances out. Is it going to be more efficient or better on certain Axies? It will really depend because stats have been baseline balanced on all Axies, right? There's no longer any sort of different stats. The only stat we have is this, HP. So we'll see how the stats will translate. Now we have Bubble Paste. So this is unique to Aquas. Bubble Paste will enhance any card. All teammates gain 1 bubble. And 1 bubble, I believe, is negating a single attack. We can double check later in the Axie Tech card finder, but we'll take a quick look. So it's on a 4 cost, right? It's a 4 potential point cost. So it's a little bit more expensive, but it will make it so any card gets an additional effect with no negative effect, right? So it's a pure buff. And then we see here, Axie's max HP +35 on that Vitality 5. So it's a direct translation from the beast charms. So it's very standardized, and I think that makes it a lot easier to balance. Now we have the second set of aquatic charms. We have the Talisman of Power 5, which is the same as the beast at a +10 attack. Now we have the Energy Drink S as well. This is also the same as the beast. So there's no uniqueness yet, right? As we saw with the Ethereal. Ethereal makes it so that the card is banished if you do not play it. Therefore, as long as you keep playing it, it will always keep the base stat of +10 so long as you play it. So it's banished if it's not played. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how people will try to counterplay. If you see a very, very strong Ethereal card with the Aqua Energy Drink S, will you try to block out this so they can't play it? We'll have to find out depending on how cards will be played. Next, we have a unique to Aqua. We have the Sticky Octopus. Enhance any card, add Retain. What Retain does, it stays in your hand at the end of the turn. Because right now in Axies, we keep all of our cards. But in Origin V3, all cards will be discarded unless they have Retain. So if you have a certain card that you need to keep for a combo, you need to add Retain. But you cannot apply it to this. If you apply it to a card that already has Ethereal, that will not work because the Ethereal will automatically banish itself. You cannot counter it out with Retain. So ideally, you want to keep this if you have a combo card or a card that you want to use at a very, very specific time, right? And last, we come into the Paralyzed Jellyfish. It's on 5 energy cost. What this does is attacks apply vulnerable for 2 turns. This is a straight up buff. A vulnerable increases the damage taken, I believe, by about 20%. Increased damage taken on that Axie. So this is used to destroy tanks or to burst an Axie down. You apply this and suddenly they're taking massive damage, right? They do not want to be caught off guard when they have this. So once this is applied, you focus down that one guy because it's all bonus damage from all of your Axies. So it's different from increased damage. So if you have increased damage on your Axie, that Axie's cards will deal increased damage, right? So that means it's only for one Axie here, right? But if you have vulnerability, right? This is increased damage from everyone, so that actually makes it so 3 of your Axies get bonus damage if you're all hitting the same target. So that will make it so that this will allow for bursting. So this I would apply. What would I apply this to? Whoops. Oh, you guys know it's gonna be horrible. It's gonna be, you can apply it to Shrimp so that you can mark an Axie to take the bonus damage, and then you can play this. Why is this useful? Because a Shrimp makes it so you target the back liner. It backdoors if it's the initial card. But then you say, I can't play Shrimp anymore. But Perch targets the lowest Axie's HP. So that means this attack will go in and it will deal the plus damage from the vulnerability. So this will be a beautiful combo, and this is exactly what I'm going to run because I have an Aqua that does exactly this. It's going to be a wonderful combo. I'm going to be very happy about that. And then so last but not least, we have the Aquatic Runes. We have the first at Calcium Armor. Axies max HP plus 30. So Axies can for the Aqua can actually get a more bonus health than others, right? So we have the plus 30, plus we have the plus 35. So we can stack a lot of health on an Axie. And at the beginning of your turn, gain shield equal to 3% of max HP. So we have a constant regenerating shield like Bumpy, but it does not need to be activated. It is just persistent. Right? On 3%, it's not going to be the greatest, but it's free, right? The shield comes back no matter what. At the start of every turn, it comes back. So this is going to be very interesting because you can have a frontliner tank that will constantly regenerate shield. Plus, if you spam heals on it, it will just stay up, right? Any damage it deals underneath the shield, you heal back up, and then the shield will cover it the next turn. So it's like Bumpy. You need to focus fire this actually down, or else it'll keep regenerating. Next is Bloodlust. Non-multi-hitting attacks steal HP. We have Lifesteal, guys. We officially have a proper lifesteal because right now Mosquito and other things like that are dealing flat based on the number of based on the damage dealt, right? If Mosquito here deals 80 damage, it steals 80 HP, right? Because it's not lifesteal. This is just 1-to-1. It's 100%. This is actually now one hit will deal flat. So even if you hit for 200 damage, it will steal 15. So this balances out lifesteal. It balances out healing because instead of getting ridiculous amounts back or not getting any at all, it's always a flat amount every single time. And they've also allowed it so multi-hitting attacks here will steal 4. So they did balance around multi-hitting attacks. Otherwise, you would get 15 times 3. It would be too much healing, which wouldn't make any sense. Next up, we have Hearty Warrior. Axie max HP plus 30. So we're seeing a theme. Axies are very health oriented. Attack cards deal bonus damage equal to 3% of remaining HP. So can you get a tank that deals maximum damage? And because we can see over here, synergy. Increase all Axies max HP by 75. Why is that very, very interesting? Because you can get 3 Aquas that play 2 Heart of the Oceans. So now your Axies have plus 150 HP. All of your Axies have plus 150 HP. Because it applies to all, including itself. That is horrifying. Because now you're going to get a ton of value out of the one Aqua that plays Hardy Warrior, right? So you play 2 of these. And you play one of these. So now this guy's gonna get a ton of bonus damage because of his remaining HP, right? But remember, this says remaining, so this can be counterplayed. But if this Axie attacked at the very start of the match, it is gonna deal so much damage because all of the Axies are getting buffed in health, right? You can play all of this out, and then you can slap in the charms here for plus health that we do not see. It's right here. Plus 35 HP. Later on, I'm gonna theory crap the math on just how much HP we can get, right? Because here we have to optimize for this. We have to optimize for the potential power. So let's say at max we can play 5, right? Plus, so this will be 5 times 35 HP. Let's do quick math. So we have 150, 25, 175 here. So we have 175. Let's carry it over to here. Now we have an interesting play of, let's say we play 2 of these, right? We go back to 2. So now we have plus 150 HP. And then now that Axie plays another 30 HP. And then the baseline is 320. Let's do some quick maths here. So we have 5, 5, 10, 7. 1, 2, so this carries 1 over, so... Wait, 710? Deuce, did I do the math wrong? Did I do the math wrong? How did you get 710? I would ideally like to see this, because you can't play 3 Heart of the Warrior. You can't play 3 of these, plus a Hardy Warrior, right? Because you can only play 3 runes. We can't play 3 plus 1. We have to play we can only play 2 to get maximum value out of that. Yeah. So ideally, you would want a super tank up front to deal maximum damage and be very, very girthy. Because what we can see over here, if we did our math correctly, it is going to be rocking a solid 675 health, which is going to be absolutely absurd. Absolutely absurd. Because this on average, because the average Axie's HP is going to be 320 at base, it has more than 2 times a normal Axie's health. We're going to see what Origin's going to be like, because this is going to be a monster to bring down. But I appreciate you guys watching, and if you guys want to see more, click the like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.